In the quiet stillness of dawn, when the city still slept, a billionaire stepped out of his mansion, restless, burdened, lost in thought. He wasn't used to silence, only power, noise, and distance. But that morning, something unusual caught his eye. By the garden bench, beneath the soft glow of the rising sun, his maid, the woman who had served his family with quiet loyalty, lay fast asleep. Her arms were wrapped around something small, delicate, precious. It was his baby. Both were asleep, the child's head resting peacefully on her chest. Her old shawl covered them both, shielding them from the cold. The billionaire froze, his heart pounding. For a moment, the world around him stopped moving. Questions stormed his mind. Why was she outside? What happened? He moved closer, quietly, afraid to wake them. The baby stirred, smiled in her arms, and that smile broke him. He had never seen such calm, such love, such safety. He realized the woman who had so little gave his child everything. And what he discovered next would change both their lives forever. Because sometimes, the richest hearts don't live in mansions. They sleep quietly on park benches, wrapped in love instead of luxury. The billionaire stepped outside before sunrise. His mansion stood silent, marble floors echoing his loneliness. He was used to control, order, perfection. But that morning felt different, heavy, uncertain. A strange chill drifted through the courtyard. He walked toward the garden for air, and then he saw her. His maid, humble, tired, wrapped in an old blanket, sleeping on a wooden bench beside the fountain. In her arms, his baby. The sight struck him like lightning. Her shawl was wrapped around the child, shielding it from the cold. Her own hands were trembling, but she never let go. He froze, unable to speak. He had trusted her with everything. But this, why was his baby outside, in the cold? Was this neglect, or something else? He moved closer, quietly, afraid of what he might find. The baby's tiny hand gripped her dress. Its chest rose softly, safe, warm, calm. Her face was pale, exhausted, but peaceful. It wasn't a picture of carelessness. It was love. Love so raw, it didn't need explanation. And as he stood there in silence, he realized this moment would change everything he believed about people. Her name was Maria, the maid no one noticed. She worked without complaint, spoke only when needed. She had no family, no wealth, only her kindness. Every day she cared for his baby like it was her own. She sang lullabies in a language unknown to him. She smiled through pain no one ever saw. But that night had been colder than most. The heater in the nursery had stopped working. The baby had cried endlessly. Maria waited for the maintenance man. He never came. The billionaire was away at a gala, unreachable. So she did what any mother's heart would do. She wrapped the baby in her shawl and stepped outside. She rocked her under the stars until the crying stopped. The bench became her cradle, the night her blanket. She stayed awake for hours, humming softly, until exhaustion pulled her under. She didn't mean to fall asleep, just rest her eyes. But love had kept her there longer than strength could. The baby slept peacefully the whole time. When the billionaire found her, he saw only the surface. But beneath that, there was sacrifice, the kind only the poor understand. And in that moment, truth looked nothing like what he imagined. He stood there, his emotions colliding like storms. Anger, confusion, guilt, fear. He called her name softly, Maria. She woke with a start, clutching the baby tighter. Her eyes widened when she saw him standing there. "Sir, I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to. I just..." Her words broke before her tears did. The baby stirred, but didn't cry. He took a step closer, voice trembling. You slept outside, with my child. She nodded slowly, eyes downcast. The room was too cold, sir. She wouldn't stop crying. He froze. The words hit deeper than expected. The guilt crept in, quiet and sharp. He had been too busy, too distracted to notice. The baby's warmth had come not from comfort, but from her care. The silence between them stretched like eternity. He looked at her trembling hands, then at his child. Peaceful. Something cracked inside him. Not anger, realization. He whispered, "You could have caught your death." She smiled weakly, tears falling. "As long as she's safe, sir." He had never heard loyalty sound so human, and for the first time, the billionaire felt poor. Later that morning, he asked her to sit down. He wanted to understand, really understand. She hesitated, clutching her shawl tightly. He said softly, "Tell me the truth, Maria." And so she did. She told him about the family she once had. A husband lost in an accident. A baby girl who died because they couldn't afford medicine. Her voice shook with every word. "I couldn't save my child," she whispered. "So when I hold yours, it feels like I get a second chance." The room went silent. Even the air stopped moving. The billionaire's eyes glistened with tears he didn't expect. He saw the pain she carried like a shadow, and the love she gave that wasn't hers to give. Yet she gave it anyway. She had nothing left to live for, until his baby came. Her care wasn't duty, it was healing. Every lullaby she sang was for the daughter she lost. Every smile she gave was redemption. The billionaire bowed his head, ashamed, humbled. He had wealth, but not peace. She had grief, but also grace. And in that moment he realized, she had given his child more love than he ever had. The bench wasn't just wood and metal. It was where broken hearts found purpose again. That evening, the billionaire called his family together. His mother, his sister, his wife, all gathered in confusion. They thought he was going to fire Maria. But his voice was calm, almost reverent. "This woman," he said, pointing gently, "saved my daughter." Gasps filled the room. She slept in the cold, just to keep her warm. And I slept in comfort, not even knowing. His words echoed through marble halls like confessions. Maria stood trembling, unsure what was happening. Then he did something no one expected. He knelt in front of her. "I failed to see your heart," he said softly. "But today I saw what true love looks like." He offered her a new home, a warm one, a place inside, beside his child, not behind her. He promised her a life of dignity and rest. The staff whispered in awe. No one had seen him cry before. He hugged his baby, then looked at Maria. "From now on, your family," he said. And for the first time in years, she smiled without tears. Because sometimes, kindness wakes even the richest souls. And sometimes, a maid's heart can teach a billionaire how to be human again. Days turned into weeks, and the mansion felt different. Laughter replaced silence. Warmth replaced distance. The billionaire began to notice the little things. How Maria hummed lullabies while folding clothes. How his baby reached for her first before anyone else. How her gentle smile lit corners no sunlight could reach. He watched her closely, not with suspicion, but respect. Every act she did was filled with heart. She didn't just serve, she cared. She didn't just work, she healed. One morning, he brought her a gift, a simple necklace with a small golden heart. "For the woman who kept mine beating," he said softly. She tried to refuse, shaking her head. "I don't need gifts, sir. Seeing her happy is enough." But he insisted, eyes kind. "You taught me that love isn't bought, it's given." She smiled, tears glistening in her tired eyes. That moment wasn't about money, it was gratitude. Gratitude for humanity that he almost forgot existed. From that day, the mansion felt alive. Not because of wealth, but because of warmth. And everyone knew something sacred had begun, something no riches could ever replace. But life has a way of testing hearts. One night, the baby fell ill, suddenly, dangerously. Her breathing grew faint, her skin cold. Panic filled the mansion once again. The billionaire called every doctor he knew. Machines, medicine, chaos filled the nursery. But Maria stood still, calm, focused, faithful. She took the child gently into her arms. She began to hum that same old lullaby, the one she once sang to her lost daughter. Her voice trembled, but her spirit didn't. "Please, God, not this one," she whispered. Her tears fell onto the baby's tiny hands. The billionaire watched, helpless but trusting her. Minutes felt like hours. Then, the baby's breathing steadied, soft, rhythmic. The color returned to her cheeks. Everyone froze. Even the doctor was silent. Maria smiled faintly, whispering, "She's okay now." The billionaire covered his face, crying. He knew what had happened wasn't medicine. It was love. Faith stronger than fear had saved his child again. The room fell quiet, except for the baby's gentle coos. And that night, the billionaire learned. Some prayers don't need words, only tears. Time passed, and Maria began to feel uneasy. She had grown too attached, too close. She feared people's whispers, their judgments. "She's just a maid," they'd say behind her back. She packed her small bag one morning quietly. The baby was asleep, the mansion still. She left a note on the table. "Thank you for everything." Her hands trembled as she turned toward the gate. But before she could leave, a voice called out. It was the billionaire, holding his daughter. "Leaving without saying goodbye?" he asked softly. She froze, eyes filled with tears. "I don't belong here, sir. People talk." He walked closer, placing the baby in her arms. "You belong where love belongs," he said. "You're not just her maid, you're her guardian." Her tears fell freely now. He added gently, "You're not leaving, you're staying with us." The baby laughed in her arms, as if agreeing. The mansion's gates remained open, but her heart closed them forever. She didn't need to run anymore, because love had finally given her a home. And for the first time in years, she believed she was worthy of it. Seasons changed, and time danced on softly. The baby grew, walking, laughing, shining. And wherever she went, Maria followed. Through first words, first steps, first heartbreaks. She was there, her shadow, her comfort, her strength. The billionaire grew older too, wiser, gentler. He no longer measured life in money, but in moments. Maria became more than a helper. She was family. The girl called her Mama Maria, and that name meant everything. The mansion was no longer just walls. It was warmth. Every photograph told a story of transformation, from distance to closeness, from pride to humility, from wealth to love. And in the middle of it all, Maria's quiet smile. She never wanted credit. She never wanted praise. Her greatest reward was seeing the girl happy. And when people asked the billionaire how his life changed so much, he'd simply say, "Because one woman loved my child more than I loved myself." And that truth stayed with him, always. Because love, once pure, never fades. It only grows. True wealth isn't found in mansions or money. It's found in the hearts that love without limits. The billionaire learned that gold can buy comfort, but never warmth. Maria taught him what kindness really means. She lost everything once, yet gave everything again. Her love turned his emptiness into gratitude. Her faith turned his doubt into belief. Sometimes, the richest person is the one with nothing but love. And sometimes, the poorest heart hides behind diamond balls. That baby grew up knowing two parents, one by blood, one by grace. She learned that family isn't who you're born to. It's who stands by you when the world is cold. Maria's story spread, touching hearts across the world. Because love like hers doesn't need applause, only remembrance. Even years after she was gone, her spirit lingered in that house. In every laugh, in every bedtime story, in every sunrise. The billionaire often said, "She didn't work for me. She worked for love." And that became his legacy, his redemption. Because one act of compassion can rewrite a lifetime of pride, and one humble maid can teach a billionaire how to be human again.